A question I get asked all of the time is, will Pokemon Unite come to the Switch 2? Will it be optimized for the Switch 2? Will the mainland China version of Unite make it to the global version of Unite? And will Switch 2 have anything to do with that? And also, what do you do to get your mustache so luxurious? Do you use a cream or perhaps a balm? All of it will be answered in today's video, at least as I best possibly can. Jake, your resident content cowboy here. Yeehaw, let's get into it. Pokemon Unite and Switch 2. I don't think anyone would be shocked to hear that Pokemon Unite doesn't run unbelievably well on the Switch. We've talked for a long time about performance issues with the game on the Nintendo Switch and how it runs so much better on mobile. There's no question that Unite was designed for mobile gaming, and you can even see that with the Unite version in China only working on mobile. Of course, there are many reasons for that as well, but Pokemon Unite is a mobile MOBA that is also on Switch. The big reason for that, of course, being Nintendo. Nintendo owns part of Pokemon, and that is a great way to get more eyes on this game. There are a lot of people who also greatly prefer playing on the Switch. I like playing Switch and mobile. I like gaming more on the Switch. I just like playing on a console. That's just, the way I enjoy gaming the absolute most is on a console, and I do think it probably goes console, PC, mobile for me. Even though Switch runs Unite runs, I almost said Switch runs phenomenally well. Unite runs phenomenally well on mobile. It plays so well on mobile. And I also do think it's cool that on World Championship teams, you will find players who run Switch and players who run mobile, even though it does play better on mobile. And when I talk about play better, I'm not only talking about how some moves interact or things like that, which is interesting because I do feel like there are certain move sets that just work so much better on mobile. Like when I think about aiming a move with a lot of spellcasters and things like that, it is just better on mobile to be able to drag your finger. It's a lot easier to be able to hit your heavy slams, especially with the way that move, aims on Switch on mobile. So I'm not only talking about moves and things like that, but the game runs better. Its frame rate is better. Its menus are better. Its UI runs better. Everything in that game is optimized for mobile. So what does that mean for the future of Unite on the Switch, and what does that mean for the Switch 2? And that's where we kind of have this big question mark, a question mark that we have had for a while. I remember the other day I saw this tweet from Chris Heroes, another Unite content creator and amazing solo queue player, that said, "It's crazy how dead content creation for Unite feels right now, and I'm slowly running out of the Switch 2 and Chinese content copium at this point. Would bigger updates even bring players back?" And I do want to talk about that in this video. My response to Chris was, in my opinion, a big update could really make Unite popular again. Talk more about that in a second. If they paired that with a Switch 2 release, they'd have a great free game optimized for the new console. Hope they try and do it. And I really do hope they try and do it. I think if you're looking at a way to revitalize Unite, like let's say I am the CEO of Pokemon Unite, there are a lot of things I would change day one. I would really clean up some stuff around here when I become the CEO of Pokemon Unite. But there is a question in front of Pokemon Unite right now. And Pokemon and really the investors, Timmy, behind this game. And it's what they want to do with the global version of this game and whether or not they want to put the time and money and energy into merging these versions, into optimizing the Switch version for the Switch 2, into revitalizing Unite, or are they just going to continue supporting global the way they have been because it's working pretty well in certain markets like Japan, and they will continue optimizing China for the Chinese market? You honestly could see them going either direction. There is no question that if you want Pokemon Unite in the global version, again, outside of a few markets, to succeed and thrive and not only get new players, but get returning players, keep players happy, you're going to need a big update. And there are a lot of ways they could do that, but I do think pairing it with Switch 2 is one of the absolute best things they could possibly do. So imagine this, you are lucky enough to get yourself a Switch 2 and you've got Mario Kart and things like that, but outside of a few of the launch titles, you don't have a lot of other new games that you might be ready to play. And if there is a free-to-play game a free-to-play Pokemon game that is optimized for the Switch 2. And maybe you've already heard of Pokemon Unite. Maybe they don't call it Pokemon Unite, right? They call it Pokemon Everybody Get In Here, because it's a battle brawl. I feel like that title's maybe not long enough. But if they call it something like that and they go, oh, a new Pokemon game that's optimized for the Switch too, that would be a massive surge of players. A huge amount of people would come back to the game. And then worldwide, if you had a huge update and you remarketed the game and you said, it's Pokemon Everybody Get In Here, or whatever I called it, it's like an improv group game, Pokemon Everybody Get In Here, I do think that that would be massive for the game, especially if you are pairing that not just with optimization, because that's not enough. You would need to pair that with a large update. The large update would be a version of the global merge, which would be taking everything that's going on with Pokemon Unite in China and moving almost all of it over to the global version of the game, possibly outside of ranked being their ranked mode, which is 500 point mode, right? Like maybe it's not that ranked mode, it's the current ranked mode we have, but we have the map update with Kyogre and Groudon, we have move updates, we have item updates, we have the open world, we have all of these things that we've seen in the China version. I think you could remarket the game almost as Unite 2. Except you might not want to call it Pokemon Unite 2. You could literally call it a brand new Pokemon game or something. It could be Pokemon Unite EX plus Masters, but if you did that, that would be the absolute best thing they could do for Unite. And that's one of the only ways, in my opinion, a big update. I'm talking big update is one of the only ways, in my opinion, to get this game to go from this kind of fine place that we're in right now to soaring again, having a ton of players come back, maybe even having players that aren't as invested in the ranked mode or anything like that, but coming back for all of the amazing mini games and different things you get to see with the China version. The auto chess feature, the auto chess game would be nice. The auto chess game coming to our version could be pretty cool. And even the auto chess game, I think, coming to our version would be nice. Look, let's face it, there's so much more going on in the China version of this game, and if we were to get it to our game, it would be huge. Now, I guess the big question is, do I expect them to do this? And that's where I really wish I could say yes, or I wish I could definitively say no. But I honestly do think it's up in the air. I know some people might not agree with this, or maybe have not thought about this, but I do think it's going to require a significant financial investment in Pokemon Unite for them to do something like this. It's not simple to just be like, we ported the game, everything's good to go. Like, no, I think there's a big investment. So are they going to optimize this game for Switch 2? Here are my thoughts. If they're just going to optimize this game for Switch 2, like they don't do anything else, they just make it run better on Switch 2, they actually go in and try to optimize it for Switch 2, how likely do I think that is to happen? I think that's actually pretty unlikely. And I know I get asked this a lot, which is the reason I wanted to make this video. Is it gonna be better on Switch 2? I honestly think, yeah, maybe the Switch 2's hardware is better, right? So we could have better frame rate and things like that. You could probably have, you don't load into menus where you kind of press that button at the beginning to use your like loading in background and the game's like you'll probably get through some stuff like that better, but I don't think they will simply optimize it for Switch 2. I do, however, think that if they go forward with a merge, they will have to optimize the game, not only for Switch 2, but for Switch, and then, of course, all the changes that they would need to make for mobile. I don't know if they're willing to do that, but I do think if you're going to see an optimized version of Pokemon Unite, it will absolutely come along with a massive update to the game. If you think back in Pokemon Unite's history, we did have a massive update to the game. When we went year one from Remote Stadium to Thea Sky Ruins and all these changes, like the map changed. It actually changed in some fundamental ways. We had different wild Pokemon. We had a different objective. We had a different way that these objectives behaved. It was actually a huge update. And we would need an even bigger update than that, I would say. New map, absolutely. New Pokemon running around, of course. New in-game Pokemon to get people excited. You need to be able to tell someone who has not picked this game up in forever, oh man, have you played Pokemon Everybody Get In Here? And they're gonna go, isn't that like Pokemon Unite? And it's like, yeah, but like this is like crazy. There's an open world, there's all this stuff. To get people to download this game, re-download this game, download the new version of this or whatever is on the App Store, it's gonna require a big ol' update, even bigger than the year one update. There is an update out there like that. The China version does exist, but I don't know if it's coming to Switch too. I ask, look, I'm just gonna be straight up with you. I ask all the time. Like I'll go to like a Pokemon event or something like that. I'll ask all the time. And I do have an NDA with Pokemon where if they told me something secretive, I could not tell you. But I can tell you this. They have not told me whether or not it is happening. And I ask all the time. I'm like, is it happening? Could it happen? And it's always a, maybe. And that's what it is, you know? I would love it if it happened. I hope it happens. The Switch 2 is a perfect place for it. Will it happen? I really don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I love you guys, and I'll see y'all next time. By the time you're watching this video, Regionals is happening this weekend, I think, by the time I have this ready to go. So enjoy that, because we're going to have some insanely good games. All right. Goodbye, everybody. We did it.